these radical left lunatics changed the name of Fort Bragg. So we won World War II. We won World War I.
Now, we'll get back to my man Trump here, but let's go ahead and get into, well, the media's reaction to Trump's big, beautiful bill and how both sides, well, as you know, the right celebrating and the left is fear-mongering or having a meltdown. AOC was damn near crying on the steps. So let's get into that.
All right. Joining us now for more is House Speaker Mike Johnson. Mr. Speaker, great to see you.
Hey, Rob, great to see you as always. This was a big day in the history of our country.
Yeah, it absolutely was. I call you the silent assassin of the Republican Party. Somehow you have been able to do what John Boehner, Paul Ryan, Kevin McCarthy, and many others could not. So congratulations. You lost just 2 votes, 2 Republicans. Was there ever a moment over the last several days where you thought this might not happen?
It was dicey, honestly, along the way, but I never did take my eye off that prize. And I believed that this group could deliver this big agenda, the one big, beautiful bill. I mean, really, this is about 90% of the America First agenda all lobbed into one giant piece of legislation. We wanted to go big. We wanted to go early. We did it, I think, in probably record time, certainly for a piece of legislation this large and comprehensive and complex. But we got it delivered. You know why? Because, Rob, I believe in my colleagues. The American people have sent some courageous, patriotic Republicans to Congress. They all believe deeply in their heart in that America First agenda, and they want to put America first again. This legislation is arguably the most conservative legislation of our lifetime, and we got it done.
Sure. Were you surprised, honestly, that not a single Democrat crossed the aisle to vote for either version of this bill in the Senate or in the House? Not one Democrat.
I can't believe that they didn't, but I'm not surprised. Look, this is not your father's Democratic Party. I mean, look, they've gone.
All 212 of them said no. Not one said yes. All of them said no. So it was pretty much up to the Republicans to get the big, beautiful bills pushed through, and now it gets signed tomorrow. So it was, what was the score? I believe it was 219 to 212, and pretty much Republicans carrying that entire 219.
Far woke progressive left, and they don't seem to be able to recognize they've got to turn and come back to the center. They're going further and further left. You see that with candidates that are emerging around the country and some of the actions and antics that they've done on the House floor as they did today. They don't seem to recognize that they're committing political suicide for their party. Meanwhile, Republicans are not into pageantry or performance. We are delivering results. And that's what we did today. And I tell you what, this bill is going to help every single American. It is geared for the working, hardworking middle-class people. And it's going to give them great economic relief. And we had the largest tax cuts in U.S. history that we adopted today. The Democrats voted against those tax cuts, right? We had the largest savings, largest spending reductions ever enacted by Congress. We did that today in the bill, as well as border security, national security.
Spending reductions is quite a... Well, like I said, about $930 billion will be taken out of Medicaid. So, yes, spending cuts indeed. But considering that Medicaid has been, what we'd say, overspended on. And the reason why we say that is because, well, we've done fine with Medicaid at just like $375 billion. So right now, Medicaid spending as in the big, beautiful bill is at $825 billion. So we should be pretty good under Medicaid. Now, for your old lady and all that good stuff that they was fear-mongering about, that's Medicare. And Medicare still has funding of up to $1.2 trillion. Well, actually, $1.2 trillion on the dot. So Medicare is pretty much what protects your old lady, and Medicaid is what protects these low-income guys or people. Disabilities as well.
American energy dominance, all the priorities the president talked about on the campaign trail, and we did too, we delivered.
No, it's been Cajun rule on Capitol Hill. You and your fellow Louisianan Steve Scalise have done a remarkable job, and I don't think you get the credit that you deserve. How much did Hakeem Jeffries help your case by delivering that speech, which started on the House floor at I think just before 5 o'clock this morning?
Yeah, right at 5 a.m. He went over 8 hours. It was a snooze fest. I mean, he put his own colleagues to sleep sitting behind him. He was trying to break a record and make a point. All he did was make a mockery of their position. And he had outrageous lies about the bill. We were able to dispel that because the facts are stubborn things, as John Adams used to say. Look, this bill is going to be good for everyone. It delivers on the agenda. We couldn't get it done fast enough because the American people need relief. You remember after the first 2 years of the first Trump administration, we brought about the greatest economy in the history of the world because we cut taxes and we cut regulations. This is that again, but on steroids with everything else in it. And the Democrats are panicking right now because they know what we just did.
I want to play everyone at home one moment from your speech this afternoon. Take a listen.
You know, Ronald Reagan said one time that no speech should be longer than 20 minutes. And unlike the Democrat leader, I'm going to honor my colleague's time and be a little more brief than that.
Yeah, I think the man stood for like 8 to 9 hours. And yes, the Democratic leader stood for 8 to 9 hours trashing Trump's bill as if it even mattered. I was just like, bro, what's the point? I mean, it passed. There's nothing you can do. It is what it is, man.
All right, but you spoke for, I think, 24 minutes, so you broke your own rule.
Did it? Was it 24 minutes?
Yes,
I don't know.
It was.
That's because the applause lines. I had to break for the standing ovations. My colleagues were so excited about
Mr.
what we were
Speaker,
doing. I guess I didn't
something.
time that right.
Yeah, the applause lines.
Right.
Do you expect the president to make good on his promise to primary people like Thomas Massey and perhaps Brian Fitzpatrick, who voted no today?
Well, I don't know. I tell you what, I talked to the president most recently an hour ago before he was getting on the.
Now, at the end of there was only one no. So if it wasn't Thomas Massey, I'd be quite surprised because I believe that was the main grandstander. But if it was somebody else and Massey changed his vote, then he should be good. Trump shouldn't primary against him.
The flight to go to Iowa. He's in a great mood. He knows we got a great win. It's a great thing for the party and for his administration and his agenda. He's on quite a winning streak. I don't think he's thinking a lot about retribution right now. I think he's thinking about what we're going to deliver for the people. And I tell you what, I was involved in a conversation late last night between Thomas Massey and the president of the United States. It was very thoughtful. And Thomas Massey, in fact, flipped his vote from no to yes on the rule vote that allowed us to proceed to get that thing done. That was
so pretty much Massey's down with it. Now, here's the thing. I wonder what Massey's gonna say, or I wonder if it was just the revisions that were done to the bill that Massey's like, you know what, I like this. I like this now. Because there were major revisions done to that bill that Massey's like, look, we got more spending cuts. We got the whole what was it? It was the abortions. Yes. Planned Parenthood to be taken off Medicaid, so you can no longer pay for your abortions with Medicaid, and that was taken off. And I think the timeline is now like it went from 10 years to a year, so pretty much they just shortened it, and they just said no, by next year, no more Medicaid payments to Planned Parenthood, and that's just the way it is. And there's a lot more cuts as well that they also put in there. So I could see where Massey kind of conceded now.
That was a big thing. And I think it might be, maybe it's the beginnings of a truce between the two. I'm trying to be a peacemaker. I think it's good for the party, for all of us to be moving in the same direction.
Oh, that's interesting. How big a role did the president play working the phones last night, calling members who may have been on the fence, members of the Freedom Caucus?
He's not only the most powerful president of our lifetimes and arguably maybe in all of U.S. history, he's also the most engaged, and he was fully involved in this and was willing to talk to any member that I needed him to speak to. He's got a lot going on, so I tried to keep him insulated from that as much as possible, but he brought subgroups of members on his own to the White House, just to visit with him and talk to him about the importance of the agenda. That was very effective in this process. I mean, he deserves a lot of credit. This president is on his A game. And the long list of wins is really phenomenal. I think it's unmatched in the modern era, and we're going to keep this momentum going. Rob, this is just the first of a series of steps, of things that we are going to deliver for the American people, and we are excited. The Republican Party is here to stay.
I want to ask you about that. You mentioned this to me at CPAC when we spoke. You said that after this bill, we're going to have reconciliation part 2. I believe that's what you called it. What would be in that?
Yeah, I'm working on what I call the 5 steps to fiscal stability. Reconciliation 1, the big, beautiful bill, was the first big step in that. We will do another reconciliation package, probably sometime mid-fall, and that one will be attached to the FY26 budget. We'll get another shot at the apple, potentially reconciliation part 3 for FY27. We can do all that in this congressional 2-year term. Meanwhile, we'll be passing rescissions packages from the White House to cut and claw back spending that was being wasted with fraud, waste, and abuse. And we'll also appropriate at lower levels. We're going to get the ship of state back in the right direction on a fiscal trajectory that is sound. And I want that message to be heard loud and clear.
And a lot of people do got to understand, in the big, beautiful bill, only certain categories of spending cuts can be pushed in there. So when Elon Musk was tripping about, oh, there's not enough spending cuts, well, we can't put every category of spending cuts in the big, beautiful bill. We do have to wait for later dates. just as this man, Mike Johnson, just said.
By the bond markets and the stock market, investors, job creators, risk takers, and entrepreneurs everywhere. Come to America. And if you're in America, build more, because we are going to create the economy that allows for you to flourish.
We have Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent standing by, so I want to take, if I could, just 30 seconds more of your time. I know you're a student of history. John Adams, and again, tomorrow's the 4th of July, which is why I bring this up. Our second president, founding father, said, "You will never know how much it costs the present generation to preserve your freedom. I hope you will make a good use of it." That was John Adams. How do you think the founding fathers would feel about America today and what we've done with this grand experiment in self-government?
I genuinely believe that the founders would know that we're on the right trajectory right now. I think they'd be surprised by a lot of things happening, but they said it's a republic if you can keep it. That's what Franklin famously said after the convention. We have to keep it. We're the stewards of it now. Doing that, keeping it, means understanding the core principles and preserving them, and that's what our party's doing every single day.
All right, Mr. Speaker, congratulations. Enjoy this. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, now let's get on to his interview with Scott Bessent as well. All right.
And Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Mr. Secretary, nice to see you.
Hi, good to see you.
I want to bring up the markets initially because I think it's all connected to the big, beautiful bill. The NASDAQ, the S&P.
Oh, guys, let's make sure we double tap that screen and like the video. Appreciate the support, by the way. And shout out to my man, Zoloff. Appreciate it, my man. He says, 1,296 more days of Trump's presidency. I mean, yep. No, let me go ahead and leave that up there. You know, Dems, just go ahead, soak it in real quick. You know, breathe in, breathe out, and you are still here. Trump is still your president. Now, let's go ahead to move on to Jet. He says, "Happy birthday, America, and happy 4th to everyone." Hey, appreciate the support, guys.
Both setting records today. And I know that you built a long, successful career listening to the markets and not Wall Street economists or the CBO. What did the market tell you today?
Look, the markets have been telling us this for a long time, and it's not just the stock market, it's the bond market. Markets live in the future, and markets anticipated that this bill was going to pass. Markets understand the non-inflationary growth that we're going to get here. So just so all your viewers understand, after the panic over the tariffs in April, I call it tariff derangement syndrome. After that panic, we had the fastest recovery from a 15% drawdown in history. The stock market set a new high. And then the bond market, which I watch like a hawk, had its...
Which I showed you guys that, yes, I mean, it is an all-time high right now. Now, I think I can even go to the, well, yeah, I mean, NASDAQ right here, 5-year, it is at an all-time high. I mean, from the 5-day to the 1 month, it skyrocketed. Even in the 6-month projection, it is at a record high. And that goes for the rest of the major indexes. Like, let me know if you want me to show them, and I got you. All right, guys, let's get right back to my man, Scott Bessent.
Best 6 months in the past 5 years. So bond markets like this, they think, as the Speaker Johnson said, we are going to right our fiscal ship, and stock markets like growth. So this is a great combination of growth with fiscal restraint.
Mr. Secretary, everyone had their say in this bill, in the House, in the Senate. It got done in the end. But can you talk about President Trump's leadership in getting this bill over the finish line with Speaker Johnson, of course, and Leader Thune?
Well, this is what leadership looks like. President Trump, as Speaker Johnson said, may be the most engaged president in history. He had a number of senators out on the golf course all weekend. Last weekend, he was making calls and holding individual meetings. And I got to tell you, too, is the House Freedom Caucus, who were the last to come on board, they should be very proud. They changed the center of gravity for this town in terms of big spending to now we've got growth without the big spending. So look, it was not a straight line, but I could not be more excited about where we ended here in terms of both growth and a great fiscal trajectory.
I want to ask you just about where we are. We're at almost the 6-month mark of Donald Trump's second term. Gas nationwide is at its lowest level since the last time Donald Trump was president. The jobs report today beating expectations. The Dow is at almost 45,000. We talked about the S&P and the NASDAQ. Inflation is falling 2.4%. We're close to peace deals on 3 fronts: Ukraine, Gaza, Iran. We have a peace deal with Rwanda and the Congo. The Waffle House even removed their 50-cent surcharge on eggs. So things are going much better than they were 6 months ago. Let me ask you, just as Treasury Secretary, where are we 6 months from now?
I can't tell you how excited I am, because I think.
But all right, though. So, yeah, here's the U.S. job reports for June 2025. Non-farm payrolls increased by 147,000, surpassing expectations. Unemployment rate fell to 4.1%, down from 4.2% in May, the lowest level since February. Average hourly earnings rose by 0.2%. Clocking in at a 3.7% gain year over year, and labor force participation remains steady at 62.3% within the employment population ratio at 59.7. Oh yeah, we're looking pretty good.
On Monday, everyone's going to take a break tomorrow to celebrate the 4th. On Monday, I think
Oh yes, and here's a breakdown of the jobs added. All right, so about 73,000 to 73K plus, primarily education to state and local government. Healthcare and social assistance is new jobs have been added about 39 to 58K. Private sector jobs overall 74K. So yeah, we're looking pretty good.
Pent-up demand that business leaders have been holding back until they got the certainty from this tax bill is going to start making its way into the economy.
Yeah.
As I've said many times, President Trump's economic agenda is a three-legged stool. It's trade, it's taxes, and it's deregulation. So we're landing the trade deals. Those are coming in. I can't even describe the inroads we're making against this unfair trade that's gone on for decades. We passed the tax bill on July 4th. President Trump, Leader Thune, Speaker Johnson, incredible leadership. And probably the most underrated portion of the president's agenda is the deregulation, because that is what is going to create the supply side, which means we can have this fantastic growth without inflation.
One about Jerome Powell. So the Fed chair lowered interest rates more than once before the 2024 election. Critics say that was political. He was trying to help Kamala win the election. Do you think he's playing politics right now by refusing to lower interest rates, which are still too high?
Well, look, it's an entire board here, and my guess is that just like many other established financial types, they have overestimated the impact of tariffs on the price level. And I think that we will quickly see that there's been no inflation, and that if there were a one-time price adjustment, there's nothing more transitory than that. So I would expect that the markets are telling us we're going to see 2 interest rate cuts this year. The 2-year bonds are telling us that the Fed should be cutting. So I would expect that the longer they wait, the bigger the first cut's going to have to be.
Okay.
And like I said, the Fed chair is right now double speaking, which is absolutely weird, because the double speak is that, okay, well, he said he's waiting for some type of situation in the future so he can cut rates. And I'm just like, all right, so you're saying you're going to cut rates when something bad happens. Now, if you're projecting that something bad is about to happen, the way to fix it is to cut rates. Why not get ahead of the game and cut it now? And that's where, just one big, like, yeah, what are you talking about?
Mr. Secretary, thanks so much for being with us tonight. Congratulations on the win today. More to come, we hope. Thank you. Scott Besson.
All right, now let's get over to Scott Besson on Charlie Kirk.
We are honored here at the Bitcoin.com studio to have the Treasury Secretary of the United States. And honestly, one of the unsung heroes of this administration, just a loyal operator executing on the president's agenda. And all of a sudden, you look at the market and we're at record highs, and he's been a superstar. It is Scott Besson, Mr. Secretary. Great to see you. Thank you for joining us. First, I just want to say you have kept your head down, and we have trade deals with Vietnam, and inflation is low, and wage growth is up. And
shout out to my man Jay says, cut the effing rate so the economy can blast off. Like, I know, right?
Have trusted you and trust the process. Before we get into the big, beautiful bill, what is the
Post office
state of the
has
American
failed us,
economy?
though.
It's in transition, Charlie. And again, thanks for having me. Thanks for everything you do. That the economy is in transition. As I've said, we are reprivatizing the economy. We had this blowout government spending from the Biden years, biggest that we'd ever seen, 6.7% deficit to GDP when we weren't at war or weren't in a recession. So we are taking away from the government spending, bringing it over to the private sector. And the centerpiece on that, President Trump is going to sign tomorrow, the one big, beautiful bill is going to create what I call parallel prosperity. So it is the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act and the power of that for business. And then for working Americans, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. 85% of seniors will not be paying tax on Social Security, and you will be able to deduct auto loans for American-made cars. So I think that the transition will begin tomorrow. If the Hakeem Jeffries can ever sit down and let the Republicans vote, and
No, for
then
real.
you know on
No, that man Hakeem Jeffries is a different type of dog. I ain't even gonna lie. He just stands up, just talk for 8-9 hours, and then he said, "Now my portion is done." This portion of my rant, I was like, God damn, this man is really doing this. So the big beautiful bill passes, and all you can do is sit there and cry for about 8 hours straight. Yeah, guys, that's real revolutionary. That's a real rebel right there. That's a real fighter for the Americans. You know, a talker.
Monday, I think that we are going to unleash a capital spending boom in the U.S.
Oh, and shout out to my man Manny. Look up James O'Keefe on the Treasurer. You know, I do got it. Well, yeah.
Which will first manifest itself in construction and then lead to a pickup in manufacturing jobs like we haven't seen in decades.
So now emphasizing the big, beautiful bill even further, you know, I am doing every fall and spring a massive campus tour, and young people repeatedly are worried that they are entering a renting economy, not an ownership economy. That they want to be able to have the same access to buying a home and buying assets like their parents did. What does this bill do to help the next generation, specifically those that are graduating?
And shout out to my man Wolfie. He says digital ID is being pushed in Aussie. He said they're putting a ban on everyone who's used social media unless they're signed up and got a digital ID, all about controlling you. Wow. So you pretty much can't enter on social media unless you follow that rule of, well, putting you in their digital system. I mean, scary, real Chinese like.
College to be able to have their piece of the American dream, be able to own homes
Social
and not
credits.
just be lifelong renters.
Well, out of the blocks, I think we are going to see that it will increase real wages.
And shout out Cuban. Appreciate that, sis. She said, wanted to say it's time to toke. Hey, and shout out. Why not? Why not? Everybody pop your cigars out.
It's going to bring down inflation. And for your generation, you've gotten a bad deal. That the Biden administration, the great inflation post-COVID, which they knew was coming, but they didn't care because they wanted to blow out the spending. They also put on substantial regulations. So, you know, what happens was you got a demand shock from the government, but then all this regulation created the inflation. So, you know, that created supply constraints. That's how you get inflation. So what we are doing is we're going to create a demand shock. We are going to see the private sector take over, and the private sector is how you get good paying jobs where you can get real wage increases in excess of inflation. And on the other side, away from the one big beautiful bill, the rest of our agenda is deregulation. And there's a thought that deregulation would bring costs for the average household. So let's say for a single average household will be about $10,000. So Let's say for a single person, that'd be about $2,500. So we are laser focused on ending this affordability crisis. Once we have finished trade and taxes here at Treasury, we're going to take on the student loan portfolio. We don't have a solution for what's going on there, but I do think that just forgiving student debt was unacceptable. But I
Yes,
do
I
think
agree.
that I think that there is a firm and humane way to deal with the student debt crisis, and we are going to be focused on that here at Treasury because for many young Americans, they've started out post college with the equivalent of a mortgage. So we're going to be working on that. But the real thing here. And again, it's depending on what you're doing.
No, I'm actually happy that he's touching on that because, we kind of thought they were just going to leave that alone. And even I said, I'm not going to lie, though. The student debt problem is definitely a problem here. And a lot of these kids went to school, got overcharged for their education and got a job that pays nowhere near enough. So I do feel for them, but I also you feel like you should take responsibility for your actions, even your financial ones. But we do feel for y'all. Trust me, we feel for y'all. We just need to figure out a way that's not like Biden, where we just cut it all completely. Maybe reduce it to the actual cost, because let's be real, your education cost was definitely overinflated and overpriced. I will be honest about that.
I started my career out. I lived on the tip wages, so no tax on wages was a pretty good start.
Yeah.
The no tax on tips, by the way.
Like when I was in college, I was a pizza driver. I was driving for, I doubt you guys ever heard of it, but Cousin Vinny's, 12 hours a night while in school, living off tips. So, man, I wish, God, bro, if I had this going on, this would be amazing. If I had no tax on tips, then.
The way is major. We're going to see now more money in consumers' pockets, which will stimulate bottom-up consumer spending. But I do want to, and I love all of that, and I agree with you on the student loan situation. First of all, we shouldn't penalize the blue-collar workers that don't have student loans, but we have to find some way to navigate this. I think we got to get colleges to start to pay it. That's my opinion. Start to have colleges have some portion of the student loan repayment. But I want to put 439 up on.
That's also fair because some of these kids done got scammed. They done got pushed by advisors, pushed into degree, so the school can continuously siphon money and run up that debt on you. So, yeah, some of these schools do need to take accountability for their prejudice actions or their predatory practices, not prejudice, but predatory practices. And they do need to foot some of this bill for the student. You guys push this guy into a degree that you knew he wasn't gonna make no money off of. Great, you guys should foot some of that.
Green here. This is the real blue collar wage growth. This is a remarkable accomplishment, Mr. Secretary, that I know you want to emphasize. Walk us through what we are seeing on this chart here. This is officially from the Department of Treasury. It's year-to-date real hourly earnings, growth for production and non-supervisory workers. What are we looking at here?
So, Charlie, what it shows us is that President Trump is the working American president. So for the first 5 months of any presidential term here, we go back to Richard Nixon. President Trump's current.
Guys, look, I'm gonna be real with you. We can't give you free education, but we can give you a reduced cost education. Because, think about it, there's competition in the education game. There's your public school education that needs to be improved. And then there's your private school education that, your parents got to pay thousands of dollars into so you can get a great education. You can be taught levels above the people who are going to public school. Hey, man, it is what it is.
Term since January 20th has seen the fastest blue collar wage growth, 1.7% real hourly earnings. And that the second biggest wage growth was in President Trump's first term. So we can see the dedication that his policies.
All right, so it says real blue collar wage growth. So pretty much, wow, we've seen a 1.7 wage growth in blue collar wages. So under Trump in 2025. But it was dipped under Biden. Pretty much you've seen a complete reduction under Biden.
Have for working Americans. And, all this is before the one big beautiful
Real
bill
blue
kicks
collar
in.
waste.
If you're a homeowner,
And this is what I keep trying to tell the Dems. Like, this is what you guys don't see. Like, understand that every time Trump was in office, wages rose for some reason. I don't care. He had great policies. I don't care if you want to call it just the magic of Trump. But for some strange reason, this man hits office and wages go up. That's what we've seen in 2017, and that's what we're seeing even in 2025 for some crazy reason, which I can explain. But I mean, you Dems ain't gonna believe it.
All this is before the one big beautiful bill kicks in.
if you're a homeowner, you need to listen to this. When's the last time you checked on your home title? That's the legal proof that you own your house. If you're like me, I want to emphasize this.
Actually, before we get into this, I do want to also get into AOC right here, because we're going to take a little bit of swing to the left and see what these guys are talking about. I always do like to check out what's going on both sides, even if one side does slightly irritate me, ever so slightly.
I think this is one of the saddest days in modern American history. This is the largest. Withdrawal and ending of healthcare in American history. 17 million people in our country, 17 million Americans in our country are going to lose their Medicaid. They're going to lose their ACA insurance. Small business owners are going to have their healthcare costs skyrocket.
No, they're not.
And people are going to have their SNAP and WIC cut back. People are going to go hungry. People are going to get sick.
They're just gonna have to get a job. They're gonna have to get a part-time job or something. And then here's the thing: if they have a kid, and I mean, let's be real though, it does say that over 14. If you got kids over 14, then that SNAP benefit's not coming in for you. But so you gotta have kids under 14, and of course be low wage or low income, and you can go ahead and get those SNAP benefits. But like I said though, they are gonna cut off the people who are able-bodied, who don't work, who have no kids. Yeah, those guys are getting cut off
on a scale unlike anything we've ever seen. And all of it is just to finance tax cuts for billionaires and the wealthiest corporations who don't even need it. I don't think we have ever seen or are prepared for how catastrophic this is set to be for a lot of people. And I think it's devastating. And they're talking about this as though it's some tax cut. Even the stuff that they're talking about, taxes on tips, no tax on tips, that's only for people, that's only up to $25,000.
And what, that's not gonna help nobody. Like, yo, AOC, man, I ain't gonna lie, that sounds like a very rich girl thing to say. Like, it's only $25,000. I mean, shoot, an extra $25,000 in anybody's pocket yearly, especially in the middle class or lower middle class or lower class. Like, come on now, that's gonna help them out. It's only an extra $25,000, guys. So small compared with big money AOC get.
And if you're making less than that, you're already kind of exempt from a lot of these things in the first place. So they're giving people crumbs and they're taking away the whole loaf. And it's just a genuinely really sad day for our country.
What about Leader Jeffrey's final message, looking ahead to 2026, 2028?
Well, to Leader Jeffries' message, he's right. The best thing that we can do right now is press on. And in order for us to salvage what we have and to build through, we have to chart a new course and a new path to our future. And we have to make sure that there are consequences. If you're on Medicaid, if you're on ACA, if you are on Medicare and rely on Medicaid to help with your long-term care, there has to be consequences to these votes. And we have to decide if this is just a joke or just for TV or if this is our real lives. And I hope people vote like it's our real lives.
And all right, now let's go ahead and get on back to our man Scott Besson explaining the wage growth.
Tariffs, we were told, were going to collapse the economy. We were told that the entire trade portfolio was going to result in just economic collapse. What would you say is driving this? And how will tariffs then play into this massive tax cut deregulatory agenda?
So, Charlie, it's amazing what President Trump has done since January 20th. He's, and maybe we'll talk about it later, but it's peace deals, trade deals, and tax deals, which everyone said couldn't be done, or certainly couldn't be done by the 4th of July. You know, we've all seen he has transformed the discussion in the Middle East, Congo and Rwanda, which hasn't gotten much publicity. He's working on Russia, Ukraine. We're going to sign this tax deal tomorrow. And then to your question on tariffs, we have changed the discussion here on the trade fairness with the U.S. The president,
and shout out to my man Jay. He says AOC is the reason why there is there is not for human consumption labels on rat poison. Really? Hold on, AOC is the reason why there are no for human consumption labels on rat poison. I mean, that does sound like a dumbass policy that she'd probably be a part of. Here's the thing, though. The district that she's in charge of got like high crime. Like, while this girl was all fighting the oligarchy with Bernie Sanders, her district was experiencing extreme high crime, which is absolute. So it kind of shows the AOC's leadership that she's all talk. All talk. She'll talk the way you want. She'll get into Republicans' faces like you want. But when it comes to real leadership, complete disaster.
The president has used tariffs as I always say, Alexander Hamilton was the original tariff man. He liked tariffs for two reasons. One, to protect U.S. industry. Two, revenues for the Treasury. And now three, President Trump is now using tariffs to negotiate. And there, here at Treasury, at the Commerce Department, USTR, the trade representative, there is long-term senior staff who in 20, 30 years said that they have never seen the deals that we are getting from tough countries, like Vietnam, some of the other trade deals that we're going to announce. But the dog that didn't bark was the idea that tariffs were going to collapse the economy. They were going to create big inflation, that they were going to kill the stock market. As you said earlier, we're at a new high in the market.
Under these tariffs, still.
And for my 35-year career in the financial investment business, I always listened to what the market was telling me. And the market is saying that this is good for the economy. And in terms of paying down debt, I don't agree with the CBO scoring on the deficit, but I always counter the people who want to quote the CBO. I said, CBO says that there's going to be 2.8 trillion of tariff income over the next 10 years. And that it pays down a lot of debt.
Yeah, and it offsets the working class tax cuts. It offsets the necessary tax cuts. And in closing here, Mr. Secretary, so I know you got to run and you have a lot in front of you. Of all the big, beautiful bill elements, what parts are you most excited about that you don't think have gotten adequate media attention? We have the $1,000 baby investment account. We have obviously some drill baby drill. What do you wish as Treasury Secretary of the United States would get more attention that you?
Yeah, my bad, Jet. He says AOC is the reason why there's a not for human consumption label on rat poison. I'm done.
Think is going to supercharge growth in the economy. Parts of this major bill, please.
I get Charlie. What I like about this bill is the parallel prosperity. So it's good for business, the good for working people, and the intersection of that is really in this 100% expensing for equipment. And for the next 5 years, you're going to be, if you're building a factory in the United States, you're going to be able to expense 100% of the factory structure. So we have made the United States of America the best place to start a business, deregulation, tax certainty, but now you can write the entire, all your equipment expenses off in.
I ain't gonna lie, the most underestimated thing about Trump's policies is the deregulation. The deregulation that's gonna allow a lot of these projects or construction projects, plant, data centers, all that, due to the regulation cutbacks, those can start a lot faster. The drill baby drill initiative can start a lot faster. The lumber, trying to tap into American lumber, can start a lot faster due to deregulation. So yeah, things are going to start blowing up on the manufacturing side and on the production side of America.
1 year. And I tell you, in the first Trump term, that is what drove the growth, because it is real after-tax returns are what drive productivity. And we are in the middle of this big productivity boom. So as I said, I would expect starting on Monday, all these projects that have been on hold, waiting for the certainty for the tax bill, this expensing is going to be very powerful.
30 seconds.
And we made it permanent.
30 seconds. Are we going to see any rate cuts? I know you can't tell us any inside information, but too late, Powell. What is going on here? Because we need to start to see rate cuts. It's major for the economy.
The market's pricing in 2 rate cuts for the year. That seems about right. The 2-year bond is much lower than the overnight rate. And when asked about the Fed, I said, look, if they don't go sooner, it just means they have to do more later, which is the history of being late.
Yeah, I mean, when you procrastinate and you don't do it now or the time you were supposed to, you end up having to do twice as more than you originally had to do, or have to do it in a rush, which causes twice as more anxiety. So, guys, don't procrastinate and get on top of things. But now let's go ahead and take a quick little break because I need to talk to y'all about something here, because this whole Abrego Garcia thing. This has gotten extreme, and I need to explain to you why this man is receiving torture and mistreatment in these prisons, which I do not agree with, but I will explain to you.
Tortured. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Maryland father, wrongly deported and locked inside one of the world's most feared prisons, revealing shocking allegations of abuse. He says it began just minutes after this moment, his arrival at El Salvador's Terrorism Confinement Center, or S.E.T, a place shrouded in secrecy and known for its brutal tactics. In a new federal court filing, Garcia describing a nightmare, stripped naked, beaten, forced to kneel for hours, guards striking anyone who moved. And in just 2 weeks, he says he lost 31 pounds. Garcia is believed to be the only person ever to leave S.E.T. Our David Culver, who twice over the past year was granted unprecedented access to the prison, will join us live in just a moment with what his sources are saying about these new allegations. But first, one of the lawyers who detailed Abrego Garcia's account of torture in that new filing, joining us now, Rena Gandhi, an attorney for Garcia. So, Rena, we're hearing this account, Abrego Garcia sharing it directly with your team. What stands out the most to you?
I think for me, what stands out is the distinction between how he was treated initially.
And here's the thing, like, they're complaining about how he was treated in a foreign country's prison. Like, we give a damn. That's the funniest part about this. 2, he was locked up with a whole bunch of gang members who probably recognize his face on the street. And 3, bro, this is a supermax prison. Trust me, they don't treat, this ain't America. They ain't treating them too nicely over there. Here's the thing, we don't even treat our prisoners nicely, but El Salvador is a whole different type of grimy.
When he got there, and once it became clear that his case was going to be a big deal and he got moved. Think about those who are there improperly, just like him, who have not been called attention to and have not been moved.
Tell us a little bit more about it, that it got better?
As described in the filing and by him, the abuse that he suffered improved in the Centro Detention Center, the secondary location he was moved to.
So he claims that he was denied bathroom access and was forced to soil himself, that he was kicked and hit so much that he had visible bruises and lumps on his body. Have you been able to verify what Abrego Garcia is telling you?
Nope.
At this time, we've spoken with him, and we leave it to government investigators to determine otherwise. But
if that was to happen in American prison, yeah, there'd be a problem. But since it happened in El Salvador, sorry, but we kind of, not say we kind of don't care.
We do not care.
I believe my client.
So you've now detailed this in 40 pages in court filings. What does Kilmar Abrego Garcia hope will come from sharing his story?
Exactly.
I think it's incredibly brave to share this kind of information, knowing and hearing that our government has clearly stated they intend to send him back. I am very grateful for